This is the Left of Center podcast with Rob Royce and Ben Knight.
Hello. Hi. Welcome one and all to the Left of Center podcast. I am Ben Knight.
I am Rob Royce.
And welcome back. How's it going, Rob?
I'm doing all right.
And so here we are again.
Yes, and I think I had a better week than you did because I think anytime you got to go to the dentist, anybody's week is better, and you were at the dentist.
What is it about the fact that, like, well, first of all, like, I like going. Do you like going to the dentist?
Well, I'm related to some dentists. I have an uncle who's a dentist and a cousin who's a dentist. I've got a cousin who's a dental assistant, an aunt who's a dentist. I mean, I've been... See, it's just part of who I am, I guess.
I'm not technically related to her, but actually what would you call, I suppose she would be my cousin-in-law.
Cousin-in-law? So your wife's cousin?
My wife's cousin's wife.
Your wife's?
My wife's cousin's wife. So would she be my cousin-in-law once removed or something? I don't know, something like
cousin.
that.
Your wife's cousin.
My wife's cousin's wife.
Yeah.
She actually was the one with her hand in my mouth. Oh. So she's a dental hygienist at the dentist that I go to.
Okay.
So awkward and yet awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
No, I did. I had to go in because I didn't chip. I actually broke a crown in half.
Yikes.
I was actually, here you go. You know what? We'll talk about it.
Okay.
I work for the city.
Yeah.
I do many different things.
Yep.
And one of them, I happen to be in a giant piece of equipment called a payloader.
Payloader. Yeah, I know what that is.
Payloader.
Big tractor thing with a bucket.
There you go. So that way, if anybody wants to look up what a payloader
They're
is.
awesome.
Yeah, they're fun. But I had stopped off at just a place in town, and I went inside, and I was just talking to somebody, and I was like, ooh, they have a candy bowl. I was like, I like candy. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed what did I grab? I mean, it was something soft. It wasn't anything hard. It was just something, just a very soft piece of candy. And I get it back in the payloader, and I'm moving around. I'm just chewing it, and all of a sudden I just feel something weird in the back of my mouth, and the crown broke. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm eating something the equivalent of a marshmallow, and I broke my tooth. And so, like, I was so livid because it was a fairly new crown, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So I run in the house because I live in a very small town. So does Rob. We live in very small towns.
Little towns.
So it's like, hey, where I work and where I live and everything else is literally like 100 feet from each other. Mm-hmm. So I go home and I call the dentist. They're able to get me in for an emergency appointment. And I get back in the payloader, and I'm livid at this point because this thing is not even, it's not even a year old, and I snapped it in half. I'm like not happy. So I get in the payloader, and just like always, I look behind me because I'm like, well, I'm going to back up onto the street and go back to the shop so I can put away the payloader.
Yeah.
I forget that morning I had parked my pickup.
Oh, no.
Right there. So I just backed right into my pickup.
Oh, no.
And just pushed it right onto Main Street, and I'm losing my mind at this point because I'm mad. I'm angry because of my tooth is broken, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to spend another $1,200 or blah 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 to get this tooth fixed, and then I just demolished the front end of the pickup, and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me! And I get out of the truck, get out of the pillar, I'm just irate. So I just,
you should turn in a claim on the pickup and see if they'll cover your crown.
No kidding. I'm like, hey, man.
Just like somehow smooth it over, and they go, what? Like, we're not familiar with an auto part called a crown.
Oh, I'm like, it's made by Mitsubishi or something. I don't know. But dude,
does it hurt to break your crown? Because that would be a tooth that you've had a root canal on, right?
Yeah, it's fake, so it doesn't hurt. Okay. I mean, it hurts your feelings in your pocketbook.
Right.
But it's just like, oh, this stinks. So I went in. And when they found, they're like, well, actually, you need another root canal on your root canal. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. This is like a twofer. Because it wasn't done right, apparently.
Oh, no. So like, you got to...
So I couldn't even get a crown replaced because I have to get because they're like, well, you can put a crown on, but we're going to have to take it off and give you a root canal anyway. So I'm like, crud. So anyway, getting to be a long story here. So yesterday, was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago.
Yeah,
I went in and got a non-permanent crown put on, and that was a chunk of money.
Like a non-perm, like you know that you're going to have to get it replaced.
It's going to be replaced in 2 weeks.
What?
So, but it's just a temporary. It's just a temporary, and then they give you the real one.
All that money that you paid them, does that cover part of the next one?
It
too?
does.
Good.
It covers the whole thing. Because I was actually nervous about that.
Yeah, because the dollar figure you told me, if you had to do that twice, be like, just go for 2 weeks without one.
But the thing is, like, I actually, unlike a lot of people, I like going to the dentist. Like, I actually enjoy, because it's just like you go in, well, like for me, I didn't have parents that were like, you need to brush your teeth, don't eat candy, drink lots of milk, keep them white, whatever, I just didn't have that at home. So it was like, I let my teeth go to absolute crap. And so now as a dad myself, like I'm always like, I'm like, brush your teeth now, 27 times a day. Like, we got to keep those things, like, I don't care if they're baby teeth. Like, let's make sure, no. And so I like going to the dentist, though, because it's like, you go in knowing you're like, look, teeth are crappy. I want them better. Like, although now, knowing what I know now in hindsight, I would have went to dental school in a heartbeat.
Yeah?
I mean, the only downside is you got to put your hand in somebody's mouth, but I can get over that. Like, that's...
You're kind of staring into an abyss there. I got to talk to my relatives to see what how do they deal with that?
It's true. You know what? Anybody listening to this, if you are a dentist or a dental hygienist, please write in or, comment on Twitter or Facebook or something.
Us what you think of looking down into people's mouths. I mean, they got to see just about everything.
I imagine it's kind of like looking into the pit of, what is it, Cocoon or something? What's the Star Wars pit where like you get digested over like 1,000 years or whatever? Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I like going to the dentist. Now there was an awkward moment as I was leaving, and I think I told Rob this, where I go up to the counter and I'm like, well, this should be a couple $100, like normal or whatever, and I go in and like she drops the number on me, and I'm like, dollars? Because I'm just like, the way she made it sound was like it was like some odd dollars and some change, and I was like, well, that's kind of odd. Normally it's just a flat number,
right? And
I'm like, so like this is not the number, but let's say she was like, it'll be $27.10. I was like, $27.10.
Can't be right.
And no, there was what she meant. This was not the number, but like 27.10 was supposed to be like no. There's a 27, then a 10, then the decimal point, then some zeros. I'm like, oh my. I'm like, well, okay, here's the deal. I can't pay for that right now. Not that I can't pay for it, but I was not expecting that number to come out of your mouth. So I can give you X amount now and then pay for it later. And she kind of looked at me funny and was like, well, I just don't, do people normally have
that much money?
Do you just have that money sitting around waiting to be spent? Because I don't.
Some people do, I guess. Well, I got to admit, the last couple times I've gone to the dentist, let me put it this way. I think it runs in my family or something that somewhere I've got bad teeth. Like, it doesn't seem to matter how well I take care of my teeth. I always get, like, I could go to the dentist one day, go back the next day, and I got a cavity. And so with all that, I've dealt with a lot of breakage and things like that, and I had exposed nerves and things like that, and I had my dentist told me that I've got like this. Now this is when I live far away from where my relatives live, so I didn't see my relatives as my dentist. I had to have a dentist where I lived. And this dentist told me, they said, usually somebody who has teeth like yours will feel it while they have a problem. Like you're getting some decay down in the tooth and it starts to ache. I don't have that. It's like I don't detect tooth decay until the tooth, like, it looks fine. Everything seems fine. And then one day the thing just falls apart on me. And then I've got an exposed nerve. So I've dealt with a lot of toothache pain from exposed nerves and things like that. And so this last, shouldn't say the last time I saw a dentist, it's the last stretch of times that I saw a dentist. It actually worked out. I enjoyed it more because as soon as he gave me the Novocaine, it's like I was not in pain anymore. For like the first time in like a year and a half straight, I didn't have any pain there. And so that was cool. And then so he ended up doing like these root canals and things like that. And And so for me, it was just a relief. I come out of the dentist's office and I don't have any pain. And so,
And here's what I'll say. Look, I'm sure that we probably have dentists or dental hygienists or
I hope so.
or elves who want to be dentists listening to the podcast. That was a Rudolph.
No, I know.
reference.
I remember.
Okay, you got it. Good.
Oh, yeah.
But here's what I want to ask, because like sometimes I think dentistry is bullcrap, because and I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, no, I believe that there are dentists, and I believe that they want to take our money. But like,
You mean you believe that now, or you used to?
no, I almost still believe that, because when I was a kid, and I don't remember what this procedure was called, but I had it done for the express purpose of not getting cavities. Like, it was a coating that they would put on your teeth.
Yes.
And it was supposed to almost guarantee, you still have to take care of your teeth and stuff, but guarantee that you wouldn't get near as many cavities. Now, as I got older, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I don't have any cavities. I'd look around, hey, no black on my teeth. I'm good to go. And what actually happened was, yes, the outside was very well protected, but the inside rotted the teeth. And so it's like, so nothing that I did, it just, genetics or whatever, but I'm just like, that was a ripoff, man, because it's like,
can you feel it in your tooth when it's going bad, or are you one of those like
something has to happen, like something has to break, or something has to like.
Then you or me are the same that way.
No, yeah, like my spidey sense does not go off. It's not like, hey, there's trouble in the back of your mouth, dude.
Well, because that's what my dentist told me. He said if you had felt these problems, you would have gone in. You would have had normally people have a lot of pain when their teeth start to become like mine is, but my teeth got so bad because I just didn't like. I had a pretty good stretch of time where I just didn't feel like I needed to go see a dentist because I wasn't having any problems. I didn't have any, I just dealt with the fact that my teeth were a little bit yellow. I didn't go in for cleanings or anything like that. Well, I'm fine. And then, like in a 2-week stretch, I lose 2 teeth, and then I've got exposed nerves. It was horrible.
It's just not fun. That and we can drop this here pretty quick because it's becoming like the dental podcast with Ben and Rob. But I actually
the dental
had
cast.
The dental cast with Ben and Rob.
The oral cast.
I'm down.
Oral cast. All right.
Because like the oral cast.
The oral
cast.
Nice.
Yes, that's right. No, but when I was I shouldn't say when I was younger. It was probably maybe like 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Younger 8 years ago.
I was younger. I was in fact younger 8 years ago. 8 years younger to be exact.
I think we can state that as a fact.
I think that's pretty fact. I'm comfortable saying that.
All right. So back when you were 8 years younger.
Back when I was 8 years younger, I had to have my wisdom teeth taken out.
Yeah.
Now here's a kicker. I had 5.
5?
5. I had an extra, apparently mutant one. It was a normal, but just hurt like crazy.
Where would it like? Coming out your nose or something?
It was like, dude, the sucker was practically in my brain. I don't know how the heck it was, but it was the kind of pain that like I couldn't move. It hurt so much.
Infected or something?
No, it's just for the same reason you have to have your wisdom teeth taken out sometimes. It's just they just have to be taken out, I guess. You just don't have enough room in your mouth.
Right.
But I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I have a 5th tooth. And to this day, I don't even know. I'm just like, I think you just made it up because you want more money. I don't know. I'm not picking on dentists. Somewhere there's a beach house that I paid for with just my mouth.
Now, I think just about every kind of career has an element of bullcrap in it.
Yeah, because I'm not just picking on dentists. It just happens to be it just happens to be that I've had bad luck, dentally speaking.
Sure.
And so I have to pick on somebody.
Broken promises. This didn't work the way they said.
I'm like, this is like a movie. It's like, there was a boy who was promised good teeth. Yeah, I've got good teeth. He was lied to. I've been betrayed. It's just like, that would be an awesome. You know what? That would be like, in my head, it would be just like the Morgan Freeman, Keanu Reeves. What was that movie? The Chain Reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be something like that.
They knew too much.
We know too much.
Whoa.
Those are my lines. Those are his lines.
That wasn't in the movie.
That wasn't in the movie. But no, anyway, other than that, no,
So I had a better week than you. I didn't break your crown. I don't even have a crown. I should have a crown. I'm supposed to have a crown. But my reasoning for not having a crown is because I don't have all this money sitting around that they want to take. You know what? They told me
I'm not rich.
This guy, I loved my dentist. All right, where I used to live, I loved him, and it was actually, he saved me from a lot of pain. So I actually did enjoy going, and he was a cool guy. So we talked, but he told me, and this is maybe where I'm kind of with you on this. He told me that these root canals that I had done would last, maybe a couple weeks to a couple months, unless I got a crown. And the crowns are, they're over $1,000 a piece, and I need 4, I think. Let me think here. Let me feel them with my tongue. I think 4. They were telling me that I needed, and this was a couple years ago now that I had all this dental work done, and I haven't. All these, they're doing fine. They're ugly. They don't look like teeth.
I think we should just grab a rusty pair of pliers and just finish the job.
Hey, I'm kind of into fixing stuff these days.
Just rip them
Sure.
right the heck out.
See what we can do.
Well, I mean, okay, so you had a better week than me. What have you been doing this week?
Well, I mean, there's parts of my week that I would probably say weren't necessarily better. I just don't want to talk about those. But one of the things that I finally got around to, I've got this guitar that I bought, and I got this ridiculous deal, because some dude had put. I'm not against this. It just I think that this is why I got the good deal. It's the only thing that makes sense. He put like a checkerboard pick guard on a...
See, which is fine if you're into two-tone or ska or something. Like that's
50s. It was kind of going for the 50s vibe and things like that. Okay, great. If that's what you love, that's what you love. But, the majority of people who play guitar are not into the 50s vibe like me. But anyway, recognizing that this actually was a quality instrument... It went for hundreds of dollars less than it should have, and because I bet just about everybody who looked at it saw only the checkerboard and was like, forget it. Well, I've got a couple spare pick guards, and they're like, I'm just gonna throw them. Anyway, I finally got around to rewiring this thing and all that stuff, and I've never been one to fix stuff. We talked about that last week. I fixed my iPad. Usually I just hand it over to a professional, be like, here, just check. But now I live in this town that's a long ways away from places that do that sort of thing. And
let me ask you this, because I'm curious, because I am not this person. Well, okay, let me bring up this.
Bring it up.
I'm gonna ask you a question, sir.
Okay.
Now, are you the person who? Now let's just say hypothetically, let's say that you have a lot of money. Okay, let's say that you are a millionaire.
Okay.
Now, would you rather pay someone to do something for you? Not something simple, not like I'm going to pay somebody to mow my yard, or I'm not going to pay somebody to like chew my food. I'm going to pay somebody to like do something, like fix the car or fix an instrument or whatever.
Right.
Are you that person, or are you somebody that would rather have? Or would you rather just, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, would you rather be the guy that like takes time to? Would you rather spend your time or would you rather spend your money?
I think the older that I get, I can see. I'm probably setting myself up for like when I'm an old guy, I'm going to be a tinkerer out in my garage or something like that. Because I don't have a problem spending the money. Like I don't know how much it costs to fix these things that I fix. I really think that it'd probably be between $15 and $40 to get all this work that I just did fixed professionally, but it's, and even like my iPad thing, it was like to get a screen replaced, I think is $80, and twice I had absolutely no problem just turning it over to a guy. Like I said, one was $160, one was $80. I have no problem spending that money, but I'm kind of liking how it feels to actually like. I fixed it. It's like it's working. I have no idea how this stuff works, but I took a soldering iron to the inner guts of this guitar, and I put some headphones on because this guitar was plugged in, and I'm feeling around with the soldering iron. At the same time, I'm hearing the scratchy sounds from when audio connection is being made and stuff like that.
I like the technical terminology. It's very nice. So
here, the soldering iron, I hear the I'm like, aha, I got signal. And that's how I knew I was fixing it. And so I have no idea how all this stuff works, but I fixed it. And so I'm kind of into it. My time must not be worth a lot to me anymore, but it was rewarding. It had a whole different,
See, and that's where I find that I'm the polar opposite, just in that, like, I feel like my time is insanely valuable. Now, I'm not like one of those people where I'm like, my time is very valuable, I don't have time for you. No,
Right,
it's not like that. It's just more like, I feel like my life is going by so fast that even if it's something simple like, I wish I wouldn't have done this for 2 hours because I could have recorded a podcast, or I could have spent 2 hours.
Done that.
Or I could have spent 2 hours with my son, or I could have, it doesn't have to be something like really rewarding. It's just like I would have had that time to do anything.
Well, here's what happens when your kids get older. Like, this is the second time that I've had to get into this particular guitar to solder it. Today I was making a necessary repair on some of the work that I'd done on it earlier. So my story was kind of a combination of two events. But in between these two events, my oldest son, he ended up, he watched me the first time, and he's totally into this. He wants to be an inventor someday. And so he's watching me with the soldering iron, doing what you do with a soldering iron. And he ends up taking one of his sister's toys that used to make a lot of noise, and it isn't making noise anymore. It's broken. He takes this thing apart, finds that a wire has come loose inside. He soldered it back on. The thing works again. And so my couple hours of my valuable time I could have been spending with my kid, this kid's going to save me a fortune.
Your kid's MacGyver. He's like, Dad, I took a toothpick, a piece of string, and like a copper wire, and I just made a car or
saved
something.
the world. Well, but these things end up turning into quality time at some point. And so that's part of it too, is understanding that my boy likes the idea of inventing and things like that. It's like, hey, let's pull my guitar apart and see what we can. He was there the whole time, and this is maybe something he's going to always know how to do, even though I have no idea. I still don't have any idea what I'm doing, but he very well might, because just this one little incident, this little quality time with Dad, changes his, it gives him a trade, skill someday.
Well, and the thing is, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to. I hope I'm not coming across as that person that's like, I've got so much money, it doesn't matter. I'll just throw money at anything. No, not at all. Not at all.
But there's these. I understand, because there's like these pesky little things like my guitar. Like I said, $12 if a guitar store was, within. Let's see, what's the nearest guitar store? It's over an hour away. But if there was one just down the street, and it was a matter of $12 to $15, I never would have gotten into this thing.
Well, that's the thing. And I think I have just a weird thing when it comes to, like, I'm just like, how much for a new tooth? You got to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. But then it's like, an amp or a guitar or a drum or whatever that I want to get is
it's only $1,200.
It's like, what? It's only $1,800? That's a deal. And my wife's like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, what? It's only $1,800? She's like, only $1,800. I'm like, what? That's cheap. It should be 3 times that. But like, see that
tooth?
As you probably know, it is not easy to convince your wife. Like, it's only $2,000. Like, you don't understand. This thing is worth 10. Like, yeah, I don't care.
I usually don't run into a problem as long as I'm like selling something else in order to get it.
That's the key. There is like. Are you spending money, or are you selling something else that will actually, that's not, so technically it's not really costing you anything, hopefully.
Well, no, and I actually ended up getting into I had this construction business that I ran before I came up to the town I live in now to be a youth minister. And I ended up selling that business, and it's not like I came into a lot of money with the sale of that business or anything, but it was some, and I asked some people who were better at investing than I am not good at investing. If you want to make a bad investment, just talk to me. But I talked to some people who were, and I said, okay, here, it's not enough money to invest in real estate. It's really not enough money to do much of anything with. But what could I do? Like, I don't want to just do nothing. And the advice that I was given was, hey, you like guitars, and it's something that you seem to know a lot about. But what could you say with any confidence that you could make a profit on guitars? I think I probably could. And so that's where it came from, is I had a little bit of money to play with. And I got into I picked up some good deals. I ended up selling them, making some money. And so that's why I've got these things. I don't want to come across either like I've just got all this money to blow.
We are two poor men in a podcast.
Too poor.
Well, I do want to move on from this, but it's
I do too.
We like to, I mean, hopefully you guys don't think this is like watching paint peel or anything, but like we do like to involve.
Happens to be what we're doing while we're talking.
This happens to be, yeah. That's just how it goes. But I think should we go into the headlines?
We have that song again, right?
That's true. I think it sounds a little something like this.
And now for the news with Ben and Rob.
All right, so the first thing I wanted to bring up with you, Rob,
Okay.
because I think this is really funny. Now, have you ever gotten into a thing? Well, actually, we won't touch on that. What?
On what?
Oh, shoot.
No, you leave me hanging.
It's true. It's all true.
What are we gonna?
Well, you know what? Have you ever?
Not gonna touch on?
What are we not going to touch on? We are going to touch on the fact that have you ever had like not a bet, but it's just like, hey, the Raiders and the Bills are playing. Like if the Raiders win, I'll shave my head.
Also, it's like, I've got something like that going right now, but it does involve money.
See, there you go. So what I'm thinking is, you know what? Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Okay, if you guys are following us on Twitter or Facebook, well, I guess it's even on our moniker, whatever that is, on our iTunes. I've got long hair, and I think we even brought that up on the first podcast. I've got long hair, and like we said in the last podcast, I'm a youth minister. I've got a fundraiser going on in our youth ministry here that in the church that I lead the youth ministry in and I lead music in. There are people who really like that I have long hair, or at least they're okay with it, and there's some people who really want it gone, and I mean, they really want it gone, and so
get rid of your hair, you hippie.
That's why there was somebody who referred to me one time, and I heard about this third hand, where they're like, do you realize that guy that you've got doing the music looks like a hippie? So it's happened.
They're like handing you pieces of paper, like for God so loved the world that he shaved your head, hippie.
Well, and so, okay, so here we have our big fall fundraiser coming up in like a week. Actually, it's a week from the time we're recording this podcast. It's actually going to come out. The podcast is going to come out after. Holy crap.
So actually, there's a chance on the next podcast that they listen to, you could have a shaved head.
No, it's not a shaved head. But my hair is long enough where even if I went with just a normal dude haircut, it's going to be a pretty severe change.
It's very different. Like Rob with short hair and Rob with long hair is very drastic.
Okay, let me put it this way. I have put 2 boxes out in the church. One that has a picture of me the way I look today, and another that has a picture of me the way I looked before I grew my hair out, before I grew my beard out. And so the idea is each of these boxes you can drop money into. And this is all to raise money for our youth ministry here. Whichever box earns the most money will be, the pictures on the box, like I said. That will be the way I look by the time this big fundraiser event is over. And so, so people can, if they want my hair long, if they want my hair short, they got an opportunity to chime in with their dollars and make it happen one way or the other. Where are we going to go with this? Oh, the bet. The bet.
The bet. Okay, so it's not a bet. But actually, where I was going with this is actually one of the headlines I wanted to read to you. It is actually, and here is the headline. It is student who failed math exam twice gets tattoo of equation formula on his bum.
See that?
And there it is, Rob. We're actually looking at. There's a tattoo on this guy's.
Come on.
There's a tattoo on this guy's butt, or this is actually from the Mirror in the UK. So it's actually bum.
It's British.
He's got a formula on his bum. So if this is
it's a mathematical equation.
It is,
and
and
tattoo.
It is. That is some. It looks like Algebra 2, if memory serves.
I remember doing stuff like that.
But this is it's Roy Kirkman, 19, told his friends that he'd get the troublesome equation permanently inked upon his person if he failed to get at least a B the third time around. So,
but he actually failed the course.
Yeah, the kid failed.
He didn't get the B, he failed the course.
Yeah, he failed the course. And so he actually went to, and this kid is 19, man. I just couldn't believe it, man. I'm reading this and I'm just like, oh boy. Now, don't be wrong. I like tattoos. I have tattoos. I have several of them. My wife has several of them. But Like, I've never once thought, you know what, I should get some arithmetic on my butt. And it's just, I mean, I'm looking at it. Rob's looking at it.
I don't want to look.
And
at
Rob
it.
is looking at it on a very large screen, so he's probably like, oh, I don't want to see this.
I'm looking. I don't want to look at that.
But the thing is, I admire this kid, and not because he got an equation put on his butt, but rather because, like, he was a man about it.
He followed through with
He
it.
followed through. He's like, look, I said it. I'm going to do it. And, like, he even says in the article, you know, like, he's, you know, as soon as they got to the tattoo parlor, he's like, look, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do this.
He did it.
It does crack me up, though. I've gotten a few tattoos. I'm looking at his face. He almost looks like he's crying. And I'm like,
is he in agony over the pain of the tattoo, or
the fact that he's
it's
getting,
happening?
the fact that he's getting an equation put on his butt.
It
like,
does not appear as though he has any other tattoo.
Well, and the thing is, I don't know. To me, like, when you get a tattoo, like, for the most part, I imagine you want people to see it. I mean, for me, you know, a lot of mine are personal, but it's just like, you know, I have no desire to put one on my butt. Like,
I can tell you with all certainty and sincerity, I have no desire to put one on my butt either.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what would you put on it? Like, you know,
On my butt?
yeah, it's like, what would you? I have no idea. I mean, to me,
I don't have a category for that question.
it would have to be an embarrassing tattoo. I mean, it'd have to be something that, like, you know, like, again, like, this kid lost. You know, he's like, look, I didn't get a B.
It would have to be a part of a bet. I mean, I like my bet way better. That we're actually raising money for a youth ministry through whether I cut my hair or not.
And that's a good deal. That's, you know.
Well, I remember what I was going to say now about that. Not that it's important now, but I've been putting, like I said, I put this picture up on this box, one of me a couple of years ago before I grew my hair out. And I did not live here in this town at the time. And people have been asking me, who's the guy on the box? Like, there's you on the one box. Who's that other guy? And they actually haven't, you know, I'm sure they'd have put two and two together, and they're just asking me before they've made that connection. But it is me on that other box. And so I'm actually kind of excited about this. If I end up getting my hair cut, I'm going to be, like, nobody's going to know who I am in the church that I've been serving for all this time.
We should run with that. We should be like, who's that? That's Bob. They're like, who? That's Bob.
Yeah.
You don't know Bob? That's Bob Choice.
Bob Choice.
That's Bob Choice. He's our new Rob. Rob Royce left to pursue something. This is Bob Choice. We looked on. We were on Craigslist, and we were looking up people who, you know, we're looking for worship leaders.
Trying to find a new guy.
And here's Bob Choice.
Well, the thing that they would probably assume more than anything else is that I'm one of my brothers. I've got several brothers. One of them has long hair like I do, and he's trying to grow a beard. No offense, but he was making fun of it himself last week. Again, no offense, but he's got long hair. But everybody else has short hair. And so I think that if anything, everybody just assumed that, oh, Rob's brother's wandering around here.
Well, and actually, you do have one brother in particular. I don't know if I've met or seen all of your brothers. You do have one in particular where when you do have short hair and no beard, you look very similar.
Yep.
And so it's, you know, it's one of those things where you do look like a completely different person.
Yeah, but I'm not going to look like somebody they've never seen. They're going to think, oh, this is one of his brothers. So
no, you look like Bob Choice.
I look like Bob Choice. All right.
Well, I do want to touch on.
Let's do this next one.
There's this next one that I'm. This will probably go very short, but in Vietnam, they held the annual. So it happens.
So it happens every year.
It happens every year. The Miss Milk Cow pageant.
There it is. Look at that.
There she
There
is, Miss Milk Cow, Vietnam. I'm just and. Well, here's the crazy. There were 126 entrants this year, and I
gotta say, okay, there's a cow wearing, what is that? A carnation?
Yeah, I mean it's
on its head.
It looks like she's going to prom. Is what it looks like.
But I've never seen anybody go to prom with a carnation on their. Well, I guess they put flowers in their hair and stuff like that. I guess,
So normally you wrap it around the wrist or, like, you know, pin it on their dress. Like, this is a cow with a rose on her forehead.
Now, another reason this is interesting to me has nothing to do with the news story, but do you ever wonder what farmers in different countries look like? Because
that has never crossed my mind.
I have to admit it has crossed mine. Not farmers look like necessarily, but even like what kind of equipment do they use in other countries? Because, you know, North America has some competition out in the world with some of these crops we grow, like wheat is huge in China and Brazil and things like that.
You said wheat?
Wheat.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, no weed. I don't know where they grow this stuff. I don't know, basements. But no, wheat, grain is big in other countries as well. And it's like, okay, do they use like John Deere tractors? Like, I mean, we live in a part of the country where everybody has a John Deere tractor, whether they're a farmer or not. Seems right. Do you have a John Deere tractor?
I have a John Deere mower.
Push mower?
No, a riding mower.
Yeah, so do I. So there you go. Neither Ben nor I are farmers, and we still have a John Deere.
I wonder if people are going to listen to this and be like, these guys got money coming out their butts because listen to them with their new teeth and their John Deere mower. My John Deere mower is probably like 25 years old at the newest.
I think I got you beat too. And besides, I fix my own guitars when it's $12 each. Well, anyway, do these guys use John Deere's? And I hear these guys are dressed up. They're evidently cowboys, but they don't look like American cowboys.
You know, I don't think they're cowboys as much as they are. They kind of actually
look like auto mechanics.
Do you know what they kind of look like to me? They look like, oh yes, she won the Miss Milk Cow beauty contest. Now
look what they're wearing. They look,
but they look like they're getting ready to walk her into a barn.
I disagree because of the way they're dressed. They look like they're ready to walk her into an auto garage.
I see, but that's what I mean though. They're wearing like a uniform that kind of tells me that they're going to walk her in someplace and she's going to become somebody's Happy Meal real soon. Okay. Like that's what it looks like.
Now wait
to
a
me.
second. You're making the assumption that they actually make a Happy Meal out of cow.
First, and they're wearing waders.
This is a Holstein cow. It's a milk cow. That's why it's called Miss Milk Cow.
Oh, that's true. Oh,
I don't
see
think
that. Then that pretty much takes my argument right out the window. I don't know.
It's fascinating. What, like 126 contestants, and
120. Yes, and like
they're trying to pick the prettiest cow.
That's what's weird to me is like they're picking the prettiest cow, and this.
What criteria do they base that on?
Well, yeah, exactly. I've never like,
but I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. That's a little bit misogynistic too. Like what with pageants like Miss American.
Well,
like
Miss Cow, you have a beautiful udder.
People they claim that these American pageants and Miss whatever aren't necessarily supposed to, you know, they try to say that it's about talent and about...
It's not about talent, sir. Have you ever watched a Miss America pageant?
I can't say that I have, actually. I've turned the channel and seen one. And so that's where I don't... Anytime somebody says, well, they're it's about the whole person, it's like, come on.
Well, what's weird about that? Well, not weird, but like this particular cow that won, and I wish they gave her... apparently she doesn't have a name. But is a 4-year-old cow weighing 1,830 pounds.
It's not bad.
No. And but what's weird to me is like they said the 1,830 pound winner was crowned, and after wowing the judges with a milk yield double that of the average cow. So first of all, they were wowed. I don't think I could imagine going to like a Miss Milk Cow pageant and be like, oh my, I was not expecting twice as much milk, Rob. Twice as much milk.
Let's not go there.
I'm just like, I'm amazed. Like not only did she fill up one jug, two, Rob, 2 gallons of 2%. Not only were there 2 gallons of 2%, she made 3 things of butter and 3 sticks of cheese. It was unbelievable.
If I knew you were going to have this much fun with this one, I might have.
I'm so a fan of this cow. This cow is my friend.
Well, I'm glad we did this thing.
You know what? I want to go to Moc Chow, Vietnam now. And I want to meet this cow. I want to be friends with it.
Let's do it. Let's book plane tickets with all this money we've got.
With all the lack of fundage that we do not have.
Right.
All right, so we're talking about milk, and I actually want to segue into potato salad. How do you feel about potato salad?
How on earth do you get milk
because,
into
Rob,
potato salad?
Milk is in potato salad. I don't know how, but somehow, sure? I don't know. Probably
I don't think
not.
So.
I'm thinking of the ingredients right now. I don't think milk is in potato salad. I suppose it can be.
I think there's mayo, and that might be the closest we get.
Well, I want to talk about 2 things that I love.
Speaking of milk, you got some on your list. You and your chai tea.
It's true. As we were doing the podcast, I am on my 4th cup of, or my 4th chai tea latte. Oh, so good.
I think I'm on my 4th cup of coffee.
It's unbelievable. I mean, well, it's right now. It's after midnight. and Rob is throwing back the coffee in his Left of Center podcast mug.
Which you need one.
I know. I do need one of those. Right now, in fact, I'm drinking out of I'm drinking out of a very small cup. So
yours is like half the size of mine.
Mine is, yeah, it's pretty pathetic. But I love chai tea. I'm a big fan, and it's organic, kids. So
I don't know if I've ever tried it.
It's so good, dude. It is so good. But I can't get segued here. But thank you for letting me know that I had some in my mustache, though. I appreciate that.
Is it called a mustache when it's part of the beard?
It is probably the mustache portion of the beard.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, I don't know, because I never thought of, because I've got this beard thing too, and I guess I've got this, but I never thought of it as a mustache.
Although, actually, if I look at you, I'd have to say, Rob, you got some. If you were to have something in your mustache portion of your facial hair, I would say, Rob, you have some whatever in your Van Dyke.
Van Dyke.
Because technically, that's what you have.
Is it?
Because if you have the mustache with the chin thing,
yeah,
that's technically a Van Dyke, I believe.
I just heard of it as a goatee.
A goatee would be if you just had hair on your chin.
Oh, all right.
See?
Now, if wonder if I should like do the Fu Manchu. What is that anyway? That's where you get like the sideburns that come up under your upper lip, but you don't have anything underneath, right? Fu Manchu, is that what that is?
I think this just proves that we have ADD. I think that's what this proves.
Because this has a lot to do with potato
It
salad.
has everything to do with potato salad. No, the reason I bring up potato salad,
Yeah,
and I want to read you this. This actually comes from this is the hard hitting news, people, that we are reading you. This is from NBC News.
We're on NBC News.
We're on NBC News, and
we're
we're gonna
big time.
and we'll try to move along with this one, but because I think we did way too long on the cow. But
that was check out
the Miss
news
Milk,
story with the Miss Milk cow.
Oh my goodness! But an Ohio man raised $55,000 in a joke crowdfunding thing. He started a Kickstarter campaign, and he actually ended up throwing a party. He called it Potato Stock 2014, and it was held in downtown Columbus. And he had bands there, and food trucks, and vendors, and yes, of course,
potato
salad. And
this is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. So Zach Brown jokingly sought $10 on Kickstarter in July to buy potato salad ingredients, but it actually grew.
How did he?
He grew national attention and global attention, and he earned tens of thousands of dollars. So, I mean, it was started as a joke. This guy was just like, look, I like potato salad. Like, I just want $10 so I can make a serving of potato salad. And people just were like, this guy's awesome.
Well, did he partner up with charities afterwards or before? Because it says here he partnered up with Columbus Foundation. And
yes, he did partner with the Columbus Foundation. And this is the foundation that supports charities that fight hunger and homelessness.
Okay.
And the account started with $20,000 in the post-campaign corporate donations.
Okay.
And then after potato stock, they would add more of the proceeds from potato stock into that campaign money.
Guarantee this is gonna be like an annual.
And so
thing
so they made like another like $35,000 at potato stock.
That's crazy.
And this was all just as a joke, just like, you know, I just want to make some potato salad. This is like this would be like if I started a Kickstarter tomorrow and I was like, I want $2 so I can make macaroni and cheese.
S'mores.
Like I want to go to a store or Walmart or wherever and buy some Kraft macaroni and cheese. But I need money, so this is my Kickstarter.
And you end up with $55,000.
And I end up with $55,000, and I start Carb Fest, and where you get macaroni and cheese this and macaroni and cheese that. You can buy hats that are in the shape of noodles, and like you can
do it.
You know what? Maybe we should do it.
This guy can raise this kind of money for potato salad, but then potato salad is kind of like everybody has their own. Like you don't have a brand of potato salad.
No, not really.
Because it's like, I mean, you can go to the local market and you'll have like a local deli has prepackaged. You know, they'll prepackage like,
and a lot of them do.
Couple hundred.
They make it, and I'm giving air quotes. They do make it from scratch,
right?
But everybody and actually potato salad, especially. I'm from the South. I mean, southern Indiana is technically according to a lot of people at the South. I mean, talk to somebody in Alabama, any of our listeners here from like Alabama, Georgia,
They're
whatever,
like, no
they're like, no,
way.
that is not South. But
From where we're from, it's South.
they will agree with this, though. In the South, people do take things like potato salad seriously. I mean, like it is not an uncommon thing to go to a fair and they're judging potato salad.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's sacred ground you can be walking on for sure. But I just love that. I love these kind of things. I love where somebody has this simple idea that starts out as a joke. And it's like, it goes crazy. Now this is for a charity, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that he did this, but I mean, simple things start from goofs all the time. I mean, have you ever seen the preview, or seen the show, Crap My Dad Says? With William Shatner on it. It's a TV show. I've never watched it, but it just has like a bleep thing that, it's just like bleep, or it's like little symbol, like pound symbol, at sign, blah blah. My Dad Says, and it literally came from this guy who started a Twitter, and he's like I think he was a guy like in his either upper 20s or 30s, and he lived with his dad, and he would literally just tweet things that his dad would say every day, and it was just the most ridiculous things.
He's got like these old school statements and stuff like that.
So somebody, and not even that. I mean, just this random. I mean, just stuff that makes no sense.
You go back a couple generations, and people had no problem using like sexist or racist terminology.
Well, no, because and the excuse is, well, it was a different time, and it's like, well, okay, well, but like somebody, I guess, for whatever network it's on, was like just happened to see this and like, this is an awesome idea for a show, and so they literally paid the dude. Like, I mean, a show came out of a bunch of tweets, so I mean...
That's crazy.
So it's insane that this,
Well, they now follow the guy around or something?
Yeah. Huh. But, I mean, this could become into... I mean, maybe next year, Carb Fest 2015. It could happen.
I have no doubt that it could.
It could happen. Because we could do macaroni and cheese, we could do breads. Carb Fest.
Carb Fest.
I'm
there. I'm totally there.
I would be there. I would make this like a month-long festival. If you guys want to do Carb Fest, let us know. Let's do Carb Fest.
We better not.
No, we probably can't. Well, we probably do need to move on from the headlines, but I do want to do one more, and this is because as Christians, this actually kind of hits home in a way. And let me read you the headline here. Dog named Lazarus survives euthanasia attempt.
That is awesome.
That is awesome. This actually happened in Ozark, Alabama. Animal control officer Wanda Snell knows what she saw. A veterinarian inserted a needle into the black and brown mutt and injected a chemical meant to euthanize the dog that no one had adopted. The animal moved a bit and was still and quiet by the time she left the shelter for home. What Snell can't explain is how or why a mixed breed dog that nobody wanted recovered overnight and has since bounced back fully from what should have been a lethal injection.
Nice.
So, less than a month later, the dog has now been adopted and lives with a suburban family in Alabama in Birmingham.
I wonder if it was her and her family, she and her family that adopted the dog.
No, it was not.
It wasn't, huh?
But here's what. Okay, this is insane. So
that is crazy.
I mean, the dog was literally given a death shot. I mean, it says right here, it's the same shot they'd give any dog to euthanize a dog.
Right.
And this dog just laid down, and she's just like, well, the dog will die, and I'll come back tomorrow and, do whatever we do with the dead dogs.
Now, this news story says that they named him Lazarus after this happened.
It's true. So, I mean, it is a headline, though. It's a headline catcher.
That's really, really cool. But that takes the fact that it was Lazarus after. I mean, if that were adopting that dog under those circumstances, I'd have named him Lazarus if I was cool enough. But
this actually breaks my heart, though, because look at this. Okay, first of all, look at this dog.
I can see him.
That's a cute dog.
Yeah, why wouldn't anybody?
Why would no one want this dog?
Well, don't they say 90% of the dogs that are at humane societies and the pound and stuff end up not adopted? And
I don't here's the thing. I'm a dog guy. I really am. I like dogs. I love dogs.
You could take my dog.
I don't want your dog. You can keep Winston.
Why?
By the way, I think I asked you once, who is Winston named after? Is Winston Churchill?
Actually,
Winston-
we got him from a breeder who never named him, but the name that he gave him on the website where we found him, he just named the dogs on this website.
He's looked at me. He's like, "You're Winston."
Well, it's a British breed of dog, so
Winston.
right. And so for all I know, they always name a litter these same names. I don't know. So there was Winston and there was Stockton, and these were just some of the names of the dogs that they had for sale. And so we're like, not we, my wife. It's like, I think we want to keep the name Winston. It's like, it's your dog.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe this though. I'm just like this is pretty awesome. Like this is it makes you wonder. Like this dog must have like a special power. Like this dog, can survive death.
Maybe dogs have 9 lives, and
I don't know. I mean, have you ever wondered? Now, this is going to sound stupid. Now, here's the thing. This is going to sound stupid, and we're going to stray away from. I mean, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere biblical or not, but I mean, do you believe? Have you ever seen? And Rob, of course, who never sees movies, have you ever seen Unbreakable?
yeah, actually,
okay, you've seen it. Oh my goodness, a movie that Rob has actually seen. Okay, so ta-da. Rob's seen Unbreakable. Okay, so Bruce Willis, who slowly begins to realize that he's not a superhero, but like,
he's got some sort of invincibility power.
Yeah, and so do you think that this is? I mean, is it possible? Is it possible that maybe this dog literally has some sort of?
We're talking about a trained veterinarian who knows what she's doing in terms of euthanizing animals, and she's done.
I mean, unfortunately, she's probably done it hundreds of times.
I'm sure it's not what she got into the business in order to do. So, but nonetheless, as she was leaving, she didn't suspect like, oh man, I don't think I got that injection quite right. Everything went the way that she had planned, except for the fact that it didn't work.
And this dog literally blinked it off. She's like, "Go ahead. Try it again." I'm just like, that's awesome. This dog, I want this dog. I would literally drive to Alabama to get this dog because, like I said, I'm looking at the picture of this dog. It's a
handsome dog.
It's a handsome dog. There's nothing wrong with this dog.
No, usually when you think of a mutt that's brought into a pound, you think of
that's exactly it. When the article read mutt, I was like, oh, this dog probably looks like, it's been through war and stuff. But
there we go. We're just explaining through the dog world how shallow people really are. At least we are. Would
are you shallow, Rob?
I don't know. Would you adopt a really ugly dog?
Given the choice, like if somebody was like, you can have this amazing, well-bred canine, or in door number 2. This thing, I'd probably take door number 1. I would not take the ugly. Like if the dog was like missing an eye and he had snot coming out of his face and like he had 3 legs, and I'm like, look, I don't want to take Tripod home. I want the other dog.
Although it could be the best dog in the world.
It could be, but I mean, it depends too. Like, I mean, if I took a weird looking dog home to my son, he'd probably cry. So I don't know.
But your son would learn to love like. Unconditionally and all that.
I don't know. I feel like I'm in a losing spot here because I feel like if I take the good dog and I don't take the ugly dog, people are like, well, you're just judging him by his outside appearance and you're shallow.
There are people who would say you're heartless and cruel for not taking them both.
You are a heartless wretch.
Take them both.
You podcasting monster. No, I don't know.
You're a doggist.
I'm a doggist. I love dogs. Dogs are awesome. I don't know.
You're a puppy purist.
I'm a puppy purist. No, I am not a puppy Nazi. I love dogs, but I don't know. I just think it's amazing. This dog. I mean, this dog.
That's a cool
this dog
story.
Cheated death. That's unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there is a doggy heaven. I don't know if there is dogs are going to be in heaven. This dog.
I'm pretty sure that. Well, heaven maybe not, but in the eternal kingdom, maybe
This dog belongs in the eternal kingdom. Like, this dog is amazing.
That's a pretty cool story.
That is an awesome story. Well, I do want to move on from the headlines.
Sure.
But I don't know. Did we have any mailbag entries this week?
Yeah, we do actually. And it's not out of our email. It actually comes from a Twitter conversation that ended up happening.
Well, let's do that then. Let's get into the mailbag.
All the emails that treat you right. Let's open up the mailbag and look inside.
All right, so what happened here on Twitter, we ended up in a conversation with somebody who had a question for us. And I just want to say that this is exactly the kind of question we're looking for.
This is awesome.
And I'm not necessarily sure, beyond just speculation, what the spirit of the question was. But here's how it went. The question came in: what evidence do you have for God's existence? All I can say is, anytime anybody's ever asked that kind of question before, they're kind of looking for a showdown of some sort, and they're asking because they actually believe that God does not exist.
Go ahead, punk. Tell me why God exists.
And so we ended up just having what ended up being a really nice dialogue over Twitter. And Twitter, it's such a hard thing to communicate.
It is an impossible medium. It seems like sometimes, because you have 140. It's not even 160. I think it used to be 160 or 150. But you have 140 characters.
140 characters
to try to get your point across.
Yeah, and so this person poses the question: okay, I'm supposed to say in 140 questions characters, right? Spaces are included. Enter.
I wish it was 140 questions. That would be awesome.
Is that what I said?
That is what you said.
Good grief! I'm losing my mind.
It's all right, Charlie.
It's after midnight.
It's all right, Charlie Brown. You're doing fine.
All right. Well, okay. So 140 characters. I'm supposed to explain what evidence we have that God exists. And so anyway, we get into this conversation, and the objection ends up being, because my answer to that was simply, well, why on earth else would we even be talking about God if he didn't exist? And that might sound extremely simplistic, evidently did to this person who objects that people come up with all kinds of imaginary things, superstitious cultures, and they always come up with these imaginary people. And so, that's true. There definitely are probably the vast majority of elements in any religious construct comes out of somebody's imagination, or at least some sort of derivation of something that actually is real. Now that's kind of the point that I wanted to hit on here with the mailbag question. What evidence do you have for God's existence? And so I'm just going to take the conversation that we had. And by the way, we don't know the name of this person because it's just a Twitter handle and all that.
It's just a Twitter handle.
No idea who this person is.
No clue.
And so no name to site or location where they're at. It's just some person out there in Twitter land. And so, okay, the person had cited, people come up with all kinds of things, imaginary things like unicorns, dragons, and ghosts. And actually that kind of hit on what the point I would want to make about this question, the way that I would answer this question for anybody. What evidence do you have for God's existence? I think it would really have to come down to the logic of it. Because here we're talking about an infinite ultimate reality. Like man has conjured up the concept of an infinite ultimate reality. And so logically, would it be more logical for man to do that if infinite ultimate reality, namely God, existed or didn't exist? And then these other cultures that have their religions, there always seems to be this idea of an ultimate reality that's infinitely above man. And most religions in the world seem to agree with that. And so if it was, and my point about the unicorns, dragons, and ghosts is that each of those are based in reality. Yeah, they're fantasy. Yeah, they're made up, imaginary, and things like that. But here you have a unicorn that's a greater, more fantastic version of a horse, and a dragon is a greater, more fantastic version of a lizard, and a ghost is something that we actually even perceive about ourselves. We all have a spiritual element to ourselves, and we perceive.
Well, there is the Holy Ghost.
Well, but even something that's based in the world that we live in, we don't perceive ourselves as merely a body. And so, if we were to imagine ourselves without a body, we still have a construct of how it is that we exist, and we've turned that into the idea of a ghost. If you were disembodied, if you were disembodied, would you still live? And so the question about a ghost is still anchored in the world that we live in the thing that we perceive about ourselves. Yet God, there is no, I mean, we're talking about infinitely high ultimate reality. There is nothing in our world that points to that. There's nothing in our physical existence or in our perceivable existence that tells us that this thing actually exists. And ancient cultures have believed this. Before we knew anything about the universe, before we knew the expanse of it or anything like that. So science hasn't brought around the idea of an infinite ultimate reality. Superstitions throughout the centuries have been mainly based on physical realities or perceived spiritual realities like ghosts and unicorns and dragons and things like that. So where does the idea of God come from?
Well, what's interesting to me is that this person kind of posed more of it wasn't like, let's get into an actual debate. It was like, well, you believe in God in heaven. Well, I believe in Asgard. So how about that? It wasn't like something silly. Like, it was literally something that was like almost like their examples were things that actually, for lack of better, helped your argument more than.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure that we could probably get questions or arguments from people who don't believe in God that would, I don't know if their arguments would necessarily be, how much different than that would they be? I don't know. And anybody who doesn't believe in the existence of God, feel free to chime in. We love these kind of talks. And so I just wanted to use this as a platform to just kind of explain where I think it's a great question. What evidence do you have for the existence of God? And, what if it's less logical to believe in an infinitely high ultimate reality if he existed? No, let's see. How did I frame this up? Is it more logical to believe in it if he exists or if he doesn't exist? Well, it'll end up coming down to a person's sanity. Like if it's not based in reality, that's actually the definition of insanity, is that you've lost touch with reality. So if there is no ultimate reality, as in God, if there is no infinitely high ultimate reality, and there is nothing in our physical or perceivable existence that points to him, that means he's a concept that's detached from reality, right? And that's the definition of insanity. So anybody who believes in God has to have some sort of insanity, and anybody who believes that he doesn't exist, they're the ones who are sane. So it's actually kind of this question teeter-totters on whether or not you think half, or I should say well over half of the world's population throughout all time has been clinically insane.
Well, I mean, in the textbook definition, I believe for insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But for a Christian, you're not expecting a different result. Like, I mean,
I've heard that too. I've also heard it that it's insanity is simply losing touch with reality.
Which I mean, God is not really based in reality. I mean,
that's why I call it the ultimate realities, because he's a fixed reality. He is the one who. If you wanted answers to questions, you don't look for the answers in the details. You look for the answers in the overarching premise of something. Like you have to have a place to start. You have to have a vantage point at which to gather all the little details together. And instead of trying to find all the answers for existence and purpose and things like that, and all the details of things like science. If you were to look at a concept like God, then suddenly you have a framework of which to put all these other things in. And either that's the reality or that's insanity. And I don't know if you can have it both ways. So, I'm okay with the logic of somebody who's an atheist saying, okay, then, everybody who believes in God is insane. And okay, now we're actually getting somewhere because they're actually being honest about the situation.
Well, and I will go off on a slight tangent here because,
okay.
And I'll ask you, this will be my contribution to the mailbag, because I'll ask you a question because
okay.
I'm just curious. Why is it, now as a Christian, I don't try to convert atheists. I really don't. Like, I mean, it's just going to become most of the time, like with this person, it wasn't really someone who was looking for an answer. It was somebody who was looking to pick a fight.
Possibly.
And what's interesting about that is, like, as a Christian, I'm not going to get in a fight with an atheist.
Sure.
In fact, actually, this person that wrote into the Twitter, I saw it first, and my instant thought was, I might get in a fight with this person. I don't want to get in a fight with this person because that kind of is against the whole point of being a Christian. I don't, I don't want to make this person right. Like, oh, this guy's just angry and he's not really a Christian. There is no God, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But my question to you is, why is it that atheists or agnostics or whatever, that, why they seem to, for people that do not believe in God or a God or whatever, they seem to talk about God an awful lot. I mean, they're more apt to get into an argument with a Christian over why there's no God than a Christian would get into an argument with them about why there is a God. I mean, for us, it's faith. It's the fact that we,
Yeah, the Christian can take it at face value, and if you have that anchor point like the Bible or you actually can. And I'm not saying that Christians should do this. I think actually we have this great, amazing, beautiful resource in the Bible. And there, let me back up for just a second. Remind me where we were. There was a professor who actually was an atheist who said to his college class, he said, "Raise your hand if you believe the Bible to be God's word." And so pretty much the entire class raises their hand. We believe that God wrote this book. And he says, raise your hand if you regularly read it. Almost nobody raised their hand. Raise your hand if you've read it all the way through, and almost nobody raised their hand. He says, let me get this straight. You believe in a God, or you believe in God, and you believe he wrote a book, and you have the book, and you haven't read it? And so kind of expose the hypocrisy of Christians, and that's kind of, I think, what a lot of atheists are trying to do. And in that sense, I think they're right to, and Christians can learn a lot from that, because the Christian tends to not, they take it at face value and settle for it instead of recognizing. Now, we shouldn't learn the Bible in order to win an argument against atheists, but we should learn the Bible because what this professor pointed out is that it is God's word. We have a better reason for learning the Bible and the argument for God than the atheist does for their position. We have a better reason. But nonetheless, that just isn't the reality these days. And so here, an atheist, if they say they don't believe in God, partly because I think this is changing, but they're going to get taken to task because the majority of our culture still has some sort of religious background. And so the person's got to explain themselves, for one thing. They got to explain their reason for why they don't believe in God. And it takes a little bit of research, and they actually got to come up with answers for their questions. Like, well, if God is real, then why would this happen? And it's not going to, for one person to say, well, I just believe that God works in mysterious ways, or they have these, cliche answers. But the person who doesn't believe in God has to have a better, nobody's going to fall for these cliche answers. They actually got to have a better answer than that. And then I've also found that a lot of people who are atheists, if you were to really ask them why they don't believe in these things, a lot of times it's based on human reasons, like somebody let them down, or they don't, like I said before, they don't like the hypocrisy. I've talked with atheists who say, well, they really just don't like all the hypocrisy surrounding Christianity and things like that.
Well, what they don't know is, we don't like that either.
Right. And anytime we see it in ourselves, we have only one thing to do, and that's to acknowledge our sin, because we're all that way. But a lot of the times, this is what throws an atheist. It doesn't only give them ammunition, but a lot of times it might be the orientation of their position. And I haven't really met an atheist who said, well, the reason why they don't believe in God is because there is evidence against it. It always has something to do with people. And so if you're an atheist out there and you're listening and you don't agree with that, by all means write in. I'm just saying what I've people that I've actually talked to, who I've gotten deep enough with them into it and heard their reasonings. I actually haven't heard the whole science argument, the whole illogical part, all these things. That's not where it boils down to. In my experience talking with them, it boils down to how they've been hurt by people who were Christians, or how they've been let down by people who were Christians, and things of that nature. So let me just go with that for now, because that happens to be my experience. That, okay, if you abandon the idea of God, or you never acknowledge the idea of God because you've been let down or you've been disappointed or you've been hurt, you're carrying around some sort of bitterness and things like that. You've actually attached it to God. And so as bitterness and anger and maybe even hate start to well up, you got to have an explanation for it. We can explain the things we're passionate about. Anybody can. You're passionate about sports, you can explain it. You're passionate about cars, you can explain them. You're passionate about not God, you're probably going to be able to explain it. And that, there we go. That kind of points back to the hypocrisy of the Christian a lot of the times, is that, yeah, I believe, a Christian might take the Bible at face value, might take the idea of God at face value, but there the atheist exposes the lack of passion in the Christian. If the Christian can't answer well for these questions that come up against, like this question, what evidence do you have about God's existence? If a Christian can't answer that question or has a hard time struggling through that dialogue, it's just going to point a more passionate, the atheist being a more passionate person about their position than the Christian is for theirs. And we're all there in some sense as Christians. And I think, if we realize that, then we have a position from which to repent from. And I think that's what we can learn from you. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Well, and this may sound very, very stereotypical, maybe not. For me, the day that my son was born was a day that, now I've believed in God and tried to be the best Christian I could possibly be for the majority of my life. The day my son was born, that put me in another gear with God. Because I'm looking at this child and I instantly start going through my mind and going, we have to be a creation of God, because it makes no sense to me. I mean, the idea of how we even have a kid, the fact that a child grows inside of a woman, and then once the child is born, it's fed from a woman, from her body. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. And then when you think about a human being being able to fit in your body and it doesn't hurt any of your organs, it doesn't.
There's a place for it.
There's a place for that. I mean, it is supposed to be that way. And just the general anatomy of human being, like everything just fits perfectly. Now you can't tell me that some primordial ooze just crawled out of the water millions of years ago and grew legs and all of a sudden became a human being.
That's part of the difficulty of trying to disprove God from science, trying to disprove intelligent design from science, is because there was this atheist philosopher or professor, Carl Sagan or something like that. He came up with this documentary called The Cosmos. I never saw it, but he made this statement at the beginning that it doesn't sound that alarming when you think about it, but he said the cosmos, meaning just all that is all the material out there in the universe, is all that ever was, is, and will be. And so let's say there was this big bang, or that life started from just these two little cells, and so at some point where did the building blocks for more complex chromosomic, whatever, I'm not a scientist, where did that all come from? The data would have had to have been in those super simple microscopic cells. And I don't know if we have any observable evidence in science for something like that. But if you were to look at the complexity of the human body and all these things, and to acknowledge that all of it came from an infinitely intelligent being, there's a whole lot less there that you need to explain. And you atheists could poke fun at me for saying that because it seems so simplistic. And I'm coming at it kind of from a standpoint of logic. Like, logically, when you really think about it, whatever the most basic evolutionary premise for the building blocks of life are, you're telling me that all of life in all of its complexity and every fantastic and amazing design in life, all of that data was in this little tiny bacteria that came from somewhere, that came from nowhere, that electricity and oxygen and hydrogen and all these things arrived at the right temperature, in the right whatever.
Well, and it's that same argument of, like, to me, I'm sure atheists and Christians have probably heard this argument, but it's like, we live on a planet that is just the right. I mean, another whatever it is, inch or what, centimeters. If we were closer to the sun, we'd all just burn up.
Right.
I mean, how you cannot tell me that that's an accident. That can't possibly. And not only are we just far enough, the atmosphere is just perfect to have oxygen.
Right.
It's the weather we have overall is just perfect enough to grow vegetables and fruits. And
barely where we're from.
Barely where we're from.
But nonetheless.
But it's just like, I mean, I have a hard time, and you did kind of answer my question, but it's like, it just seems like atheists spend more time. And again, I'm not, this is not beating anybody up, but it seems like they spend a lot more time talking about God or, talking about what they don't believe in.
I think they've got a lot harder job explaining, and they might say, well, you're such an idiot for believing in something like intelligent design. So I don't know how you can be an idiot for believing in intelligence. But here we are, and we probably are going to get poked fun with, oh, you have such a simplistic, okay. We're just talking about this.
We're just talking about this.
We didn't plan to talk about this, and we don't have notes in front of us about this. And
actually, for instance, I can give you a very big instance. Well, not a very big instance, but I'll give you an instance. I was speaking with someone the other day who is an atheist, and she's pregnant.
Okay. And
now I was just kind of bringing up, I wasn't going to get into a knockdown, drag out spiritual warfare kind of thing with this person. I just said, it's crazy. I said, you know what? Congratulations on you being pregnant. I said, I think that's awesome. I said, it's just crazy, isn't it? Though I said, I can't imagine. And I kind of went into I wasn't trying to beat her over the head with God.
Did you know she was an atheist?
I very much know she's an atheist.
Okay.
But as I'm complimenting her and trying to explain like how amazing, child. Just having a child is, her instant reaction was, yeah, science is pretty messed up, huh? I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, yes, it's biology, but like, I mean, she was, just very quickly shut it down. Like you could tell she knew. I mean, I wasn't trying to. I'm like, look, I'm not
picking a fight.
No, I'm not picking a fight. But it instantly was like, yeah, science is pretty messed up, huh? And I think there's this weird thing that I think that, do people think that if you're a Christian you can't believe in science? Like.
It seems like that,
because that's stupid.
To be a Christian, to believe in a God who created everything, actually gives you more of a foundational grounding for science than science does, because science is the details. And so, like I said before, you're trying to find the meaning of everything by searching among the details. Nothing else works like that. Nothing else works like that. I mean, if you were to try to take a look at, like here we're standing over carpet, or sitting over carpet. If you were to try to get down into the carpet to try to get an idea of what the general idea for carpet was, let's say you got down on a microscopic level into the stuff. You go, what is this stuff?
Honey,
What's
we
it
shrunk
for?
the podcasters.
Exactly. And you're looking at the fibers, and you're looking at and you start coming to the conclusion that this just happened. Oh my gosh. All the details that I'm finding on a microscopic level here tell me that this just came out of nowhere, and I'm not seeing any evidence for a creator. Well, you got to kind of stand up where we're at here, 4 to 6 feet above it, and say, this actually is made by DuPont, and we can understand clearly by looking at it what it's made for, right? And so the grounding of believing in intelligent designer. It sets the stage as for why and what for all the scientific details even exist. And so I think we've got better grounds as Christians to explain science than scientists who don't believe in God do. And it's, and then the other thing that I want to add, ultimately it doesn't really matter to me who has the better argument scientifically. The one thing, if we have atheists who listen to this podcast, for one, I'd be flat out excited if they're listening to this podcast. But the one thing, I don't want to stir up any anger amongst you guys at all. The one thing that I really just want to point out is that what we believe as Christians, that God purposed all of creation to display His glory and kindness to a created people through His grace and His mercy. To believe that and to see a good purpose of His revealing His love and His kindness to people, that might seem super simplistic to you, but the end of what we believe is so much better. than the end of just randomness. Like, there's so much better. The explanation is so much better.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, and it even says, it even says, taste and you will see.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is, and I've told people my whole life, that I've been a Christian. It's just like, look, fine. I mean, you can say I'm wrong. You can say there is no God, but it's like, look, just try him.
Yeah.
Like, sincerely,
just
sincerely, like, give your heart to God. Like, just try it. I guarantee you. I mean, I'm telling you right now, like, it's gonna change your entire world.
Let me close this with, this comes out of the Psalms. Many don't believe the Bible. They don't believe that the Bible's true. They don't believe it was divinely inspired. They don't believe a word of it. The Bible says that's not true. And so, not to get too deep into it, and we can save any debate for this. I mean, I don't know how to debate from the other side of this. I really don't. In terms of sitting here and representing the position of an atheist, you guys, if you're an atheist, you can do that yourselves. And if you really want to get into it with us, here we are. You can email us at mailbag at leftofcenterpodcast.com. You can catch us on Twitter and Facebook. We're pretty easy to find. And of course, you can find us you found us somehow. But anyway, if you want to get into it, let's get into it. I just want to close by bringing the Word of God into what the Word of God says about what we really truly believe deep down inside. It says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is none who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. And then if we go to Romans chapter 1, we read this. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. So, the truth being that God exists, that he's revealed himself to the world through his Son Jesus Christ. It's ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. It says here, for what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man and birds and animals and creeping things. So if I were to take the Bible at face value, not to be super simplistic about it, but to take the Bible at face value, this would explain to me that in the heart of every atheist, there is a inherent and innate knowledge of God, and they have somehow conjured up some sort of reason to deny him and to not give him the honor that he's due. And like I said before, a lot of times I think that just comes from just bitterness and anger, probably towards a person. There's something else going on there than there not being a God, because they can't factually point to there being no God. They can have their reasons. Now, those of you who don't believe in God, that doesn't mean he's not there. That doesn't mean there isn't a serious consequence for not believing in him. And I have talked with a fellow who said that, well, I guess I'll deal with that when the time comes. It's like, well, good luck. I don't think
the problem is you don't know when the time is going to come.
Or what's going to await you when it does, because God's not going to be impressed. If you're there at the end of it all, and there's God, and you didn't believe in him the whole time, and he's standing there, and you're saying, the Bible says in Revelation that you will stand before a great white throne. It will be just you, and it will be just God, and all the books will be opened up, and everything that you've ever done in your life will be opened up, and you will be judged according to your deeds. And the one thing that God asks us for more than anything else is love for him. He deserves our love. He created us for our love, and to show his love towards us. And here, every human being that's ever lived, as I read in Psalm 14, has ignored God in that sense, and we've all done evil in his sight. And so, before the great white throne of God, there we all stand. And if you just shrug your shoulders like, I didn't believe you existed, you think that's going to impress him? It's not going to impress him.
That's why as I get older, the more that I want to strive to. You know, when you're younger, you're like, oh, I have to do plenty of works. I have to make sure, and which,
right.
You know, I got to do all these things to get in God's good graces. But you know, the thing is as you get older, like I already know when I get into heaven and I look at God, and there's nothing I'm not going to try to hide. I'm not going to be like, look, Lord, you have all these books. Like I know everything that I've done wrong.
Right. And
Lord, I just have to tell you, like, first of all, I'm sorry that I did those things, but beyond that, Lord, I love you. I'm so happy to be here. And, you know, and I just want him to look at me and say, good and faithful servant, welcome to the party. Cause that's,
right. You know, and what you're describing is actually the work that God does in our hearts, because, I mean, I think you just nailed it, is that for those who the Lord reveals himself to in their hearts, they're going to be the ones who are actually glad to see him. And the Bible does describe, and for the life of me, I'm not going to be able to come up with a reference off the top of my head. The Bible says, it's in Jeremiah or Ezekiel or something like that. Help me out, you scholars. But something about weeping bitter tears. I think it's in Ezekiel. That if you're cast out, you know, from the presence of God, you will. The Bible also says in that place there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, the outer darkness, and things like that, cast out of the presence of God. And so, and it also talks about this element of shame, that if you're ashamed before God, that's not going to be a good thing. The ones who are blessed, and so on, are the ones who see God and are pleased by the vision of him. They're pleased to see him when they see him.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, I mean, here's the thing. First of all, and it right from if you read your Bible, right from the get-go, there is no hiding from God. I mean, Adam and Eve attempted to hide from God at the very beginning, and there's no hiding. So, I mean, once you get into, and that's the thing, that's the way I have to look at it, is I have no fear, because first of all, God already knows all the sins I've committed.
Yeah, he does.
He knew I was going to commit them before I committed them. So I have no fear in that aspect, because first of all, why should I be afraid? He already knows, you know, so why not go ahead and go that extra step and just try to love him the best that I can while I'm here, and go, yes, Lord, I was a fool. I was an idiot. I did these things, but Lord, I do love you, and I just want to be here. I have no desire to go anywhere else.
Well, that kind of brings up where we were at last week with Josiah from Billings. He asked the question about the Sabbath, and I think, you know, the exact Sabbath day is actually kind of beside the point, and the overarching point to all this is kind of what you're talking about, this hiding from God. One of the ways that we primarily do hide from God is when we think that we can measure up. I mean, here we have this Sabbath day idea, and you know, for the question to be presented as, well, I don't keep the Sabbath and I don't keep any of the commandments, and part of the point of it all is that you know, here we know. I mean, the law was given to us to show us that we are incapable of keeping it, so that God could demonstrate his grace and mercy for us in sending Jesus Christ, his son, who could keep the law, to die in our place so that we don't have to. He was perfect. He died so that we didn't have to, and by trusting in Christ, all of his righteousness applies to us by faith. But here we are still, though we believe in Jesus Christ, we believe that he died on the cross for our sins, still fighting with that idea, still trying to come up with a way to keep the Sabbath. Like, wow, I gotta do no work on Sunday. I gotta measure up in that one. I've gotta measure up in not envying. I've gotta measure up, without realizing that the only move that we've got is exactly what you said. There in the presence of God, he gave us something. He gave us the cross. We can fall on our face before God at the cross and say, this law is perfect. It is perfect, and I didn't do it, but your son did.
Well, and that's the part that drives me absolutely insane as I look at things, just even keeping the Sabbath, or, you know, of the deadly sins. You know, we talked about gluttony on the last podcast, things like that. Like, it sucks, because, like, you don't want to do these. You don't want to. I mean, as a Christian, you absolutely do not want to. But I mean, even something as simple as gluttony, you know, whatever God looks as gluttony, like, I find myself full, and I'm like looking at a piece of pie, or something, I'm like, I really want that.
I did that tonight, man.
See, that's what I mean. Like, Rob went crazy on the peanut butter M&Ms.
I did? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the peanut M&Ms.
Peanut M&Ms.
All right, so it's like even worse than I thought.
It's like Rob's kryptonite. Well, so I mean, like, but it's like I'm not I'm not in my head. I'm not going, I want to break a commandment. I want to break a commandment. I want to
Right.
break, or I want to sin. I want to sin. I want to sin. No, it's not like that at all. It's like in the human nature, we're just drawn to sin. So
Yeah.
we want to do it. And it just stinks because, like, it doesn't matter how many times. I mean, obviously, you pray to God and you read your Bible and you try to do everything you can to stay away from those things. But it's one of those things where it's still it's just going to keep on drawing you, keep on drawing
Right,
you.
and it's not a matter. It's never going to be a matter of whether or not we can stay away from those sins or not. Because when we find ourselves doing something gluttonous or lustful or something like that, what's really going on there? What's really going on is that we've forgotten God. That's really what it comes down to. It's like, and I can recover through discipline, and I can recover through the desire to be fit and things like that. And for vanity, even I can actually pile sin on top of sin, and it says that in Revelation, I think it's 18, where their sins are piled up. Okay, so I solve the lust problem by disciplining myself and actually instituting something else in my life that is actually sinful in a different way, or I've gotten rid of gluttony because of vanity and things like that. We're never going to be free of sin. Because sin comes along and we give into it when we forget God. That's why I meant we have one move. We only have one, and that is to fall on our face before God, and that's the only sinless thing that we do.
And I'm sure there's probably somebody that's going, I never forget about God. Well, no, you do. I mean, but you can't. It's not something that we do on purpose. It's not like, well, let's see, between 1:30 and 1:45, I just forget about God because that's my forgetting about God time.
Yeah, but we're not going to be held. We're going to be held accountable for our lack of ability to hold on. For our lack of attention, and so. It just goes to show how our only hope is in Christ and what He's done for us.
But that's again where grace does come in. I mean, we are absolutely able to go, okay, oh crap, I screwed up, Lord. I am so sorry, and that's why that grace is there, and it is sufficient for us. Is that's exactly why it's there.
Yeah, and it needs. I mean, without it, and I wonder if we're, for our atheist friends, if that's where the crux of it ends up coming down to, is that they identify a God who points out, a flaw in the human condition that they just don't want to deal with. It's easier to get rid of the God who condemns us for being human than to confront the idea that we're sinful.
And for me, it's easier just to accept God and not worry about the garbage.
Right.
You know what? This has been an awesome podcast.
I like this podcast.
This has been, this is probably the heaviest we've gotten, biblically speaking, and this has been fun.
So far, so good.
I like it.
Cool.
Well, to bring in a little reference, I tell you who did not write the Bible, for sure, and that's Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken.
I'm pretty sure he had nothing to do with.
He most definitely did not write the Bible, but
interestingly, the guy who did write the Bible had him in mind when he did.
Really?
Well, absolutely.
I just hit the microphone.
That's two.
See, for anybody listening,
up.
again, for the first 4 episodes, Rob did nothing but hit the microphone.
Really?
It was like an hour of me going, so anyway, and then Rob just pounding the microphone.
I bet I haven't hit the microphone in the last 6 hours of podcasting.
You have not, sir, and this is number 2 for me.
Nice.
But on the subject of Christopher Walken, though, he did stop by.
He did, huh?
He had something to say.
I must be out of the office when he stops by.
I'll be honest with you. He doesn't like you.
Well, I don't blame him. Maybe I don't like him either. No, I can't say that. I love him in everything I've seen him in, but
he did stop by, and while you were gone, he recorded this.
Listen up and quit your talking. It's time for Big Thoughts with Christopher Walken.
If Folgers is the best part of waking up, what's the best part of going to sleep?
I just love that he stops by just to spread the wisdom.
Well, he actually brings up a good point here because, the best part of going to sleep, I mean, this is the first time that we've run a podcast this far past midnight. And I don't know about you, but
right now it is after 1 o'clock in the morning.
Is it really? Because
it is after 1 o'clock in the morning.
I think Christopher Walken's right.
The best part of going to sleep is stopping the podcast.
All right. So, thanks for listening. I'm Rob Royce.
And I'm Ben Knight.